we were told that when we get massive tax cuts in '01 and '03, when Bush passed them, they were record-breaking. They were the largest tax cuts in United States history. That everything was going to be all right, that we were going to have more jobs, and that we were going to have higher income, and we were going to have a better economy. Now, we know what happened with jobs. Disaster. We lost 8 million jobs by the time Bush left office after the crash, right? And overall, remember, by the time the 8 years were done, about a little over 1 million jobs had been created when you count the whole 8 years. At the end, we lost 8 million and we fell off a cliff, right? Remember, during Clinton's 8 years, we created 22 million jobs. So on jobs, they were 1,000,000% wrong. But hey, you know what? Maybe our income went up overall. Not more jobs, but our wages went up. Is there any chance that happened? Apparently not. David K. Johnson, with a brilliant analysis of the numbers, let me start telling you. Between 2000 and 2008, the American people lost $2.74 trillion in income. $2.74 trillion less in income over those 8 years. An unmitigated disaster. Now, if you limit the numbers, you say, hey, wait a minute, that's not fair, okay? Because the tax cuts were complete at the end of 2003. And we had a dot-com crash when Bush came into office. And it's not fair to count the massive crash at the end. Why isn't it fair? He caused the crash, right? But if you want to be incredibly generous and start in '03 and end in '07, what the Republicans say, those are the only years you should count. Those are the only years because those are the positive years. They're not positive. Did you see that number? Show it again. They're still down. Our income, national income, in the so-called glory years of Bush, is still down $951 billion. It didn't work under any circumstance for any year. When you do it over the 8 years, like I said, $2.47 trillion we lost, which is inexcusable. Now let's look at some of the other numbers here. The average taxpayer lost 5.7% of his income in that 8-year period, okay? So down 5.7%. That's equivalent of $3,512 a year, which then becomes the equivalent over 8 years of $21,000. The average American lost $21,000 in income under the Bush years. No, but they tell you tax cuts are the answer. That if you have more tax cuts for the rich, you're going to get richer. It's going to trickle down. Does it look like it trickled down? No, it looked like they took $21,000 out of your pocket. Unmitigated disaster. All right, continuing, if that weren't bad enough. All right, we're saying, okay, look, at least between 2005 and 2007, we'll boil it down to the peak years as the real estate bubble got larger and larger and larger before it burst and it crashed. If you want to be super fair to the Republicans, say only consider those years. Well, where did the wealth go in those years? Yeah, there was some wealth created. What happened, right? Well, look at this. Turns out 30% of the income that was raised went to people making over $1 million. So yeah, somebody got rich. The millionaires got rich. Well, oh, you didn't get rich? You lost $21,000? Well, sad day for you. You should have been making over $1 million. You know, remember Bush joked around about, hey, some call you the elite, I call you my base, referring to the millionaires? There you have it. David K. Johnson referenced that as well. Now, how about our budget, okay? Now, you lost money, but did the government lose money? Because they tell us tax cuts creates more money for the federal government. Somehow, magically, increases revenue, even though you're lowering taxes. That's called supply-side economics. Let's see if that magic worked out for us. Well, during the first 8 years, 2000, 2008, we lost $1.8 trillion in federal revenue. That's according to the Tax Policy Center, okay? Now, if you include the bubble burst, the last 2 years, which has also been a drag on our economy because of the crash, it's $2.3 trillion. But you know what? Let's be generous again. Forget the $2.3 trillion number. Under Bush, even if you don't count the drag and count the crash, we lost $1.8 trillion from the budget. What happened? I thought we were going to get more money. No, we lost money. You guys crashed the budget, created enormous deficits. But today they come out and they tell you, no, the answer is more tax cuts. Well, if you look at the numbers, you'd have to be stupid to believe that. How many times are we going to get tricked into this? All right, now, one other thing for you. If you were lucky to be in the top 1/10 of 1%, 0.1% of taxpayers that were making over $2 million, well, hey, we finally have a winner. Okay, you guys got $1 out of $8 in the tax cuts. So 12.5% of all the money that went back, so-called went back to the American people, went back to the top 0.1%, to the people making over $2 million. So once again, somebody got rich, okay? And it worked out for somebody, the people that put George Bush into office. It was fantastic for them. But for the rest of us, we lost on average, as you saw earlier, $21,000 for every person in the country. That money went somewhere. You see where it went. So the next time they come talking to you about tax cuts, when they talk about job creators, how we're going to get more jobs, flat out false. Not even close to true. They talk about how your wage is going to go up, flat out false. As you see there, not even close to true. What they're actually telling you is, you don't understand. We need to shuffle more money up to the top 1% and the top 0.1%. That's what we need to do. We need to do wealth redistribution all the way up to the top. Does that sound like a good idea to you? Well, if you're in that top 1% or top 0.1%, it's a fantastic idea, I guess. If you're the rest of us, it's a disastrous idea.